Thank you for joining us for this special edition of KPBS News. I'm Maya Trabulsi. The past few weeks have brought the optimism of reopening our economy, but the past few days have brought concerns of a resurgence of the COVID-19 virus. Late this week, San Diego County health officials announced 8 local outbreaks within 7 days. That triggers a setback of the local reopening plan. Nail salons, tattoo, and massage parlors will be allowed to open this weekend, but there will be a pause for any future reopenings. Governor Gavin Newsom has ordered all Californians to wear face coverings in most public settings, an order that was already in place in San Diego. Local schools are now allowed to hold in-person classes as long as they adhere to certain health guidelines. And as for the numbers, San Diego County surpassed 10,000 known cases with more than 330 deaths. Other reopenings this weekend include the San Diego Zoo. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson says this is a welcome news for the region's tourism industry.
Visitors will get a taste of the zoo's new normal before they even walk through the front gate.
There's one that will bring people around, and they'll come up through this way.
Erica Kohler is the San Diego Zoo's deputy director. She's standing in the parking lot in front of the main gate, and she points to the poles, ropes, and gates that will funnel visitors at safe distances until they get inside. Once inside, visitors get a combination of the familiar, like the flock of pink flamingos wading in shallow water, and they get a heavy dose of the new normal. That's mostly in the form of green and white signs that seem to be everywhere, even on the ground. All remind visitors to maintain social distance and be safe.
So we really looked at everything to make sure that we are providing a very safe and very comfortable environment for our guests.
Safety includes keeping capacity at 50% as the facility reopening is rolled out. It also means a lot of plexiglass barriers at cash registers and any place there's interaction between visitors and staff.
You'll see a lot of staff on grounds to, again, remind people of social distancing. At the elevators, making sure there's only one family group at a time in there. Our tours are only one family group. So we've really taken a really measured and strategic approach to make sure that we're looking at all our operations to make sure that they are as safe as possible for our guests.
Kohler knows that building confidence is important for building crowds, and building crowds is key to helping revive the local tourism economy. The economic sector employed 13% of San Diego's workforce before COVID-19 shut things down.
It takes time to be able to re-engineer and to reopen, to call employees back and to do training. But it's great to see more coming online.
Carrie Capich is the San Diego Tourism Authority's chief operating officer.
So it's the new normal, if you will, for where we are as a community. And obviously, we're excited to see that more and more businesses are starting to reopen because we've had so many workers who have been out of work through this crisis.
She's encouraged the zoo is reopening along with other local attractions. Parks, museums, and the region's 70 miles of beaches are key lures for San Diego's third largest economic sector after the military and manufacturing. Capich says tourism is a cornerstone of the local economy.
Many economists will tell you that this pandemic has had 9 times the economic fallout of 9/11. It'll take us time to recover as a community. It'll take us time to recover as a business sector.
People have to have confidence.
Alan Jin is an economist at the University of San Diego.
Confidence to travel. Confidence then to go out and eat in restaurants, maybe into meet in smaller groups with social distancing. Until that happens, the restaurants can open, the amusement parks can open, the hotels can reopen, but they're not going to get a lot of customers.
Jin says the tourism sector has suffered a dramatic economic shock, and it'll take a long time to rebuild. He says there's also a chance COVID-19 infection rates could climb, forcing more social limits in the fall.
As people go out, some are adhering to recommendations, but I see a lot of people then, avoiding the social distancing, avoiding wearing masks, things along those lines. And I'm worried then that we'll have a second outbreak, which will further derail the economy.
Avoiding that outcome will require diligence and persistence, the same kind of diligence and persistence the tourism sector will need to rebuild the public's trust. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
And that story is just one of our in-depth reports on COVID-19 this week. We'll have more in this newscast. And right now at kpbs.org, you can find all of our local stories. Just click the Tracking COVID-19 link on our homepage. And this is a health and economic crisis. A new Sandag report shows some members of our community are at a much higher risk of being affected. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman has more on the inequity of COVID-19.
I feel like the government system in the last 200 years in America has not been working for communities of color. Like, that's why you have the problems that you have.
Supervisor Nathan Fletcher says issues of inequalities among people of color is nothing new.
What's changed is COVID and the accompanying social unrest surrounding not just the murder of Mr. Floyd, but the broader spotlight on that issue has shone a light on these issues that has engaged a lot of folks that haven't historically been engaged.
So Fletcher, other local politicians, and community leaders are creating a task force that will meet regularly, hoping to bridge that divide.
We use the word equity, meaning our reality is inequities, but the root cause of those inequities is what we call structural racism.
Dr. Rodney Hood says he's been a physician in South San Diego for 40 years and has seen firsthand how people of color are treated differently.
Underlying barriers in social determinants of health, food insecurity, job insecurity, economic insecurity.
He says the first step is acknowledging the problems and then taking action.
And it shouldn't be just a thing that's on the wall or in the filing cabinet. It really needs to have teeth.
In San Diego County, we have seen that systemic discrimination reflected in the numbers.
Data from county health officials shows Hispanics and Latinos make up 2/3 of positive cases, and they have the highest percentage of COVID-19 deaths.
While communities advocated for beach days and reopening of golf courses, Black and Brown communities are advocating for housing, worker, and healthcare protections.
The COVID Recovery Task Force is planning to meet virtually for now. Their first meeting is next Wednesday, and they are inviting the public to bring their concerns.
It's hard to ask for help. And it's even more difficult if you don't know where to ask for help. And I look forward to this committee or this recovery task force being that space where if they have questions in whatever language or whatever community they are located in, they can tap into this resource.
The coalition is welcoming new members too. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
An update on the Navy captain who sounded the alarm on COVID-19. On Friday, the Navy decided Captain Brett Crozer would not get his job back. He's expected to stay in the Navy, but will no longer lead the San Diego-based USS Roosevelt. Back in April, Crozer was disciplined for speaking up about cases of COVID-19 among deployed sailors. As the National Guard's pandemic mission is extended, there's a debate over their pay and their benefits. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh has the story.
For the past month, Specialist Ricardo Benitez has been staying at a hotel outside LA while his guard unit works at a food bank in Los Angeles.
I wake up at 5. I prep myself. I prep breakfast at the hotel. It includes maybe a hot coffee with some hot oatmeal. Basically, and then we just drive out over here. We meet up at 7:30.
Then pack meals, which are sent to drop-off sites around LA County. Then head back to his hotel. Benitez doesn't even get to see the people he's helping. Instead, during downtime at his hotel, he follows some of the local nonprofits on social media.
I do see how basically the cars line up, break of dawn to basically get some meals in their trunks. So that gives me a little bit of a peace of mind where my work is going to.
The response to the coronavirus is among the largest domestic call-ups of the National Guard. Roughly 41,000 troops were mobilized in March. In LA County, the Guard was dispatched to nursing homes when the staff became ill with the virus. In several states, Guard troops are administering tests. They're deployed in nearly every state and U.S. territory.
And with everybody locked down, people are afraid to go do that work, but the National Guard is there to step in.
That's Frank Yoakum, who leads the trade organization for people enlisted in the National Guard.
And we will do whatever mission that you give us to do.
The question is how to pay for them. Advocates in and out of Congress cried foul when the Trump administration called up the Guard for 89 days for the COVID response, 1 day short of the 90 days needed to qualify for early retirement and GI Bill benefits. It was the second time during this deployment that the order stopped 1 day short of the Guard qualifying for more benefits. Something similar happened last year when the Guard was called up along the border. Yoakum says the federal government should give the Guard the same benefits as active duty troops within days of when they're called up.
It would put everybody under one status immediately. You wouldn't have to go beg DOD for permission. And if the president signs an executive order that says there's a national disaster.
And then everyone would get the same benefits. The immediate problem was corrected by the president's recent decision to extend the pandemic deployment into August. California Congressman Mike Levin has held hearings on the pay inequity issues between Guard and active duty troops.
I'm very happy that the administration corrected what I thought was just a terrible decision that seemed designed to deprive benefits from service members.
Levin says Guard service has changed.
Now, day in, day out, they're doing a lot of the same things. They're taking similar risks. And as a result, I have believed, will continue to believe that they ought to be getting the same pay and the same benefits as well.
Congress is looking at whether Guard troops should receive hazard pay for their work in the pandemic. But a long-term fix for the pay and benefit issues has been elusive, even though more Guard troops than ever are being called up domestically. For KPBS News, I'm Steve Walsh.
Inovio Pharmaceuticals catapulted into the spotlight after saying it had rapidly developed a coronavirus vaccine at its San Diego lab. The news also boosted its stock price. KPBS health reporter Taryn Mentos says the company now faces a class action lawsuit for allegedly exploiting the pandemic for profit.
Inovio's work on a vaccine was covered by KPBS multiple times.
KPBS health reporter Taryn Mento has been following the progress at Inovio Pharmaceuticals.
It was recently touted by San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer.
Great company that is also receiving national and worldwide attention on Inovio's vaccine research.
And it was featured on 60 Minutes in late March.
At Inovio Pharmaceuticals in San Diego.
Weeks earlier, on February 14th, Inovio CEO Joseph Kim appeared on Fox Business. He declared his company's DNA technology developed a coronavirus vaccine at an incredible speed.
We're able to construct our vaccine, INO 4800, in about 3 hours.
And he said the company was preparing to begin testing in summer. Kim repeated the claim on March 2nd during a recorded meeting with President Donald Trump.
By getting just the DNA sequence of the virus, we're able to fully construct our vaccine within 3 hours.
And he added human testing would be moved up to April. But a class action lawsuit filed by investors who purchased shares after these comments claimed the boasting was inaccurate. They say it was intended to drive up the company's market value. Inovio's share prices spiked around the time of Kim's comments, but dropped after a research firm questioned that Inovio developed a vaccine in 3 hours. Inovio told KPBS the claims are a result of misunderstanding the science behind DNA medicine. A plaintiff's attorney did not respond to messages seeking comment. University of San Diego law professor David McGowan says there are 3 points to consider in these types of cases.
There's an alleged misstatement, there's an alleged correction, and then there's an allegation of motive.
The alleged misstatements were the comments by Kim. The alleged motive is the company could sell stock at a high price. The alleged correction came when Citron Research tweeted that Inovio's 3-hour vaccine development was, quote, ludicrous, and it called on the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission to investigate. Inovio appeared to respond in a tweet later that day that it had created a, quote, vaccine construct in 3 hours, but was confident that it had a viable product.
So those come together to depict the plaintiff creates a story. There was a misstatement. Why? Because of this motive, and then the truth came out, and this is what happened.
He says there are a few points that may bode well for Inovio. First, the report by Citron was from a short seller. They generally have a stake in stocks going down.
It doesn't mean it was wrong, but it's something to take into account.
And he points to the impact on the market of Kim's alleged misstatements. McGowan says there wasn't a major spike in price after Kim's first comment, Inovio developed a vaccine quicker than you can watch Lord of the Rings. He says the sharpest increase came later when Kim told President Trump about human testing in April.
Which would make sense if you're an investor and you think that the closer you get to testing, the closer you might be to a product.
And the company's value eventually went back up after the Citron tweet, suggesting market confidence. The lawsuit was filed in March, but we know that Inovio did begin human testing in April. But Inovio had to have some factual basis to make that statement back then. UCLA law professor James Park says publicly traded companies are held to pretty high standards.
But if you're disregarding certain red flags or evidence indicating that your statement is false, that can be considered sufficient to establish fraudulent intent.
So if the case moves forward, Park says Inovio may have to show evidence that backs its statements about testing and that it developed a vaccine in that 3 hours.
You might look at internal emails or documents that the company might have produced about its various development of the vaccine. And if there's no documentation at all supporting that there is a viable vaccine that's been developed, then the company should have been aware that there was no basis for making the statement.
Both McGowan and Park expect Inovio to request dismissing the case. Park says securities fraud suits against pharma companies are tossed out nearly half the time. But he thinks there are enough questions that a judge may allow this case to go forward.
Surviving a motion to dismiss does not necessarily mean this is a good case. It only means that the court wants to learn more about the facts.
That could be months away at least. Inovio said in federal filings it plans to vigorously fight the case. And earlier this month, the company said it will begin another clinical trial with its vaccine in South Korea. Taryn Mento, KPBS News.
The pandemic has exposed inequities in our society, and that's especially the case when it comes to those experiencing homelessness. KPBS science and technology reporter Shalina Chatlani tells us about the challenges for at-risk communities when it comes to tracking the virus.
So on a day-to-day, every day is different.
Jesse Angeles Jr. drives through San Diego's North Park neighborhood to drop off food on a late May afternoon. It's for his clients who live on the street.
Since COVID, as soon as it started, my workload has been almost doubled because of the need. Now clients, they're saying like, well, we don't have any places to eat. We don't have places to use the restroom.
Angeles worked with a homeless nonprofit group. He's been working with the homeless community for years, developing empathy, knowledge of mental health issues, and trust. But he still has to approach some clients with caution, like a homeless man he's building a new relationship with.
We're trying to build rapport with him, me and my partner. So I'm just gonna drop off a bag to him just to let him know that we're still here for him. Hey, it's Jesse. I would say that it is sensitive information for people, because if you don't have that trust with them, like if someone just asks them just like a blatant question like where you been and stuff like that, it has to develop through a relationship first.
San Diego County has distributed close to 8,000 hygiene kits to the homeless and offered testing and shelter at the convention center. Relatively few homeless people have tested positive. County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher says officials are doing as much as they can.
Our unsheltered community presents unique challenges, both in terms of engaging them and building that trust they'll share with you.
But while the county generally knows where positive cases are, there's currently no map of where all the unsheltered communities are located. That makes it difficult to create a regional approach for serving as well as testing and contact tracing.
Why would I feel like they will treat me and my community well in terms of contact tracing?
Rebecca Fielding Miller is an infectious disease professor at UC San Diego.
But just because there's an outbreak doesn't mean the pre-existing social issues go away. They actually come to the fore even more.
The county has already hired just over 400 diverse contact tracers who plan to call or text people, but many homeless people don't have phones. And Fielding Miller says they may not trust those calls and texts from everyone. She suggests hiring people, like Angeles, who have the expertise.
We know in any community there are people who are leaders, formally or informally, who are trusted by their community.
It's evident from watching the work of homeless workers that cultural sensitivity may not be enough.
Did you need help with that?
Well, I know I'll attempt it.
In his car, Angeles answers a phone call from one woman, Lori Buck. He helped. They stay in constant communication since Angela's helped her get a phone.
We're actually on our way right now.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be there like in, I would say, 10 minutes, 10 to 15.
We arrive at a hotel in Loma Portal. Angela's helped Buck get into this hotel at the onset of the pandemic. She had been homeless for 8 years.
It's extremely frightening because you're supposed to be inside. And when you're outside, that's extremely difficult. I've never lived through a pandemic.
She found out about the pandemic through a friend. Now she lives in this hotel and she tries to follow the guidance: social distancing, wearing a mask, hand washing. But she says it's not that easy for everyone, especially people on the street.
Well, it all depends on how you approach them, because they're people too, and some you're going to be able to get through, and some that are mentally challenged, you might have a little bit of difficulty.
Contact tracing is critical to controlling the spread of coronavirus, and while working with at-risk communities has always been a challenge, the pandemic highlights the need to find long-term solutions. Shalina Chatlani.
Would you like a bag of food?
KPBS News.
South Bay communities have been hit especially hard by COVID-19, and zip codes in Otay Mesa, Chula Vista, and National City are at the top of the list when it comes to case numbers. See what's happening in your zip code in the Tracking COVID-19 section at kpbs.org. San Diego is developing plans to allow for more outdoor dining and retail. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says the goal is to help businesses facing limited capacity because of COVID-19.
Restaurants have been allowed to open for dine-in customers for about a month now, but many still can't afford to pay all their bills while also having to limit customers because of social distancing requirements. The city's proposal would expedite permitting for outdoor dining, and for a few hundred businesses, it would also waive fees that can cost a business more than $1,000. Mayor Kevin Faulkner says the program will put public space to good use.
We're talking about expanding their operations into parking lots, sidewalks, and on-street parking spots, among other spaces. One goal: it's going to allow for more seating, more customers, and more business.
Little Italy and the Gaslamp Quarter are already moving forward with plans to open streets for more pedestrian activity and outdoor dining. And North Park's business district plans on putting restaurant tables in on-street parking spots. In the past, business groups have fought to keep as much street parking as possible. But North Park Main Street Executive Director Angela Landsberg says businesses won't need any parking if they go bankrupt.
So I think it's weighing the benefits right now to the drawbacks of losing parking spaces. Right now, if you look outside, there is parking. I mean, we've got plenty of parking. People are not coming out and filling up all the spots. Let's use those spots right now to keep our businesses in business.
The program is scheduled for a city council vote on July 7th, but businesses don't have to wait. Applications are already available on the city's website. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
As restaurants, breweries, and other businesses reopen, the free pass on parking is about to end. The city of San Diego is resuming enforcement on July 1st. A 2-week grace period started this week. On July 1st, drivers who violate parking rules will get a written warning. Citations and fines will be issued starting on July 15th. The city suspended citations in March due to the stay-at-home orders. Drive-ins have been open for a few weeks, and now the outdoor cinema Under the Stars in Mission Hills is back in business. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando shows us some of the changes you can expect.
When Cinema Under the Stars opened in 1991, it never expected to have to shut down for a global pandemic.
I feel like suddenly life's pause button was hit, and I was sucked into this grade Z science fiction movie. I was rescued by Rod Serling, and now I find myself in a Twilight Zone.
Going to Cinema Under the Stars is like entering a different dimension. And anyone who's walked the red carpet to watch a movie there will recognize Ralph DeLauro as the one who rings the opening gong. The intimate outdoor venue closed in mid-March, but can now reopen with new rules in place to help prevent the spread of coronavirus. Most notable is that the zero-gravity recliners have been reduced in number and set in pairs at least 6 feet apart. Doug Yeagley owns the cinema and the adjoining top salon.
Probably the biggest challenge is just getting people to feel comfortable with the fact that we're an open air venue that only does one show a night. So we have 24 hours to completely clean and sanitize and make sure that everything is in accordance with the law.
Everyone is required to wear a mask unless seated 6 feet apart. Couples, however, are allowed to sit next to each other.
I think people respect each other a lot more here. It's not like sometimes when you get in a mall and you get large herds of people, they're not necessarily mindful of other people as much as they are here.
The cinema reopens with an audience favorite, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
It's one that brings people together. And that's been Doug's vision from the very start of Cinema of the Stars.
Now, people can come together with the proper social distancing to once again enjoy a movie as a shared community experience.
Cinema has always been mass entertainment. I mean, that's how cinema works. It's projected on a big screen in the dark with an audience. That's where the magic happens.
Raiders of the Lost Ark plays through Sunday with Roman Holiday and Casablanca to follow. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
And that's all for this special edition of KPBS News. For all of us here at KPBS, I'm Maya Trabulsi. Thank you for joining us, and stay safe.